Welcome back to another Reading and Correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing Chapter 6 of The Technician's Fight. Captain, the commenter said, looking at him, the leadership is contacting us, demanding to speak with you. Demanding did not bode well. I'll take it in my office. Kergirik Dormitora Virisos, you have decision authority in my absence. No matter how long the admiral kept him, this didn't warrant calling a beta to take his place. The hunter at the censor board acknowledged him with a flick of the ear, without looking away from his work. Once seated, he readied himself for a fight, not to have to do whatever inane order he was going to be told to follow, then accepted the call. Instead of Admiral Thromakarin Omeritamil Selstafe, a female appeared before him, seated on the other side of his desk and studying him. How may I address you? He asked, since he had never seen her before. I am Admiral Thumdora Skirale Tofme F. Alan, Captain Gargaran Selravnir. He focused on the use of captain to keep from reacting to the fact she was a Halan. Only Pirates Clan used that addition, and only those proud of their origin kept it if they managed to break away from them. That she had made admiral while being proud of her pirate origin meant he was dealing with someone of strength. He memorized her name so he could look her up once this meeting was over. How can I help the leadership, Admiral Throm Dora Skirale Tofme F. Alan? I need you to change course. You are requested at Asgaron Station. I'm heading there after delivering a prisoner to an incarceration center. No matter how many times the psychologist had spoken with her, Alison McMartin had refused to appeal to her people, and she'd, in the psychologist's words, refused to appeal to anyone who'd just tell her they were too good for her to be one of them. You can deliver them after you have dealt with the situation at Asgaron. That is in protocol. Anyone found guilty of a crime warranting an incarceration, spare me the laws, Captain Galgran Selhalravnir. I'm in no mood. He made an effort to rein in his annoyance. All right. Then what can be so pressing that only I can deal that pressing there? What can be so pressing there? Oh, there. That only I can deal with. The Earthers have laid claims that technician Jeremy Bradshaw's claim of Kelsirian citizenship is invalid and therefore must be returned to them. What the fuck are they talking about? They can't claim anything like that after they kidnapped and tortured him. The Earther government still claims they had nothing to do with that incident, and no one has found evidence they were involved. Only that Earthers were involved and that they are working toward. Only that Earthers were involved. And they are working towards finding and apprehending them so the Federation can prosecute. And there's a lot of them here. Actually, is there? No, there's only, but it's just very close. The Federation can prosecute them. Yeah. They're never going to do that. I agree. But they are following procedures, and because of that, there's nothing we can do to keep them from laying the claim. Jeremy's claim can't be denied. As my heart, he is Kelsirian. They are claiming that the validity of him being your heart is in question. The Heart's Law doesn't care about species, he snapped. They argue that because Because his sickness affects the mind, if left untreated, he can't understand what it means to be your heart, or even understand that it means anything. What sickness? He asked, his tone suspicious enough. She tilted an ear. They call it encephalothrometapill-darminal. She struggled around the Earther words. They claim that an investigation into his habit, that will be plural, revealed that unknown to them, stopped taking his medication sometime before you reached the station, and that by the point when he was on your ship, when he asked to stay with you, that his cognitive functions had been affected. They can't be serious. They lodged an invalidity claim with the Federation following every protocol. Fine, have a mentalist on board. I'll have her do an evaluation of Jeremy and she'll disprove their claim. It won't do. They are making statements about it. They aren't making statements about his current state of mind, but the one when he initially made the claim of wanting to be with you. That's convenient, since there's no way to prove anything about it then. She nodded. What argument are they making against him making the claim again? It was the easiest way out of it, so they'd try something to prevent it. They claim that after more than a year on your ship, that even if medical inadvertently brought his condition under control, he can have been led to accept that our ways are correct for him, even without anyone forcing him to believe it. Are they actually claiming that a mentalist analysis of my heart's state of mind would be invalid? Not invalid, inapplicable to the situation. That the length of time he's been exposed to our ways is enough to get him to see them as normal, even if they are not something an healthy Earther would ever. If they are not something an healthy Earther would ever consider so. Jimmy had said his government would continue scheming. Gralgiran hadn't expected him to be right to this extent. Then we invalidate the claim through them not filing it correctly. It'll at least give us time to. We can't. What do you mean we can't? They filed the claim flawlessly. We had our best adjudicator go over the details. And there is not one mistake in how it was filed. How do they even know all the procedures that have to be followed? He didn't know what they were. Claims on the level of governments were well beyond him. But he had to file. But he'd had to file several as captain and alpha when ships from other species interfered in his investigations, and more than once he'd had to refile it because his opposition pointed to errors and omissions in the process he'd followed. They clearly have allies. Among our people? He asked in disbelief. That's unlikely. Even your ardent detractors haven't been able to side with the Earthers after what they did to your heart. But there are other species, and they all have access to the same procedure files we do. You realize this is only an excuse to get him onto a station where they will have a ship and personnel at the ready. They aren't going to keep him on the station if they get their hands on him. They are going to hide him on their ship in their territory and deny any involvement. Zenger gave his world a growl. I will not let them keep him to torture again. She nodded. The leadership is giving you permission to use whatever measures you deem needed to keep your heart safe during this. Like he needed their permission. But that she gave it had meaning. He wouldn't be alone. Alpha, when the Earthers claimed he was breaking rules, he'd have the strength of his government at his back. Thank you. The acknowledgement was limited to a flick of the ear this time. There is one other thing you need to be aware of. They had to declare everyone they are bringing, because of what happened last time, that they will leave the ship or not. A name caught the attention of our analysts. Harry Bradshaw. Jeremy's father. he said. The name had come up a handful of times, and Gralgiran had been left with the impression that what his parents had allowed to happen to him when he was a teen had caused more of a distance between him and his father than his mother. Thank you for confirming our suspicions. If they are bringing him, they plan to make use of him, possibly to appeal to Earther familial bonds. He nodded. Jeremy cared about his family, even with what had happened. Did your adjudicator compile a plan of action to fight their claims? I don't have anyone on my ship with the training to take on a government. They did. I am sending it now. But one of them told me something I think you'll find interesting. He believes that this isn't a fight for adjudicators, but for hunters. I don't... Or maybe he did understand. His experience with adjudicators showed that their first instinct was to placate First instinct was to placate their enemy, to find equalities from which resolutions could be built. He could only think of a few cases where he'd gotten everything he'd claimed for when they were involved, and those were because it had come to light that the other party had broken protocols. Every other time, he'd had to be satisfied with partial victories. Maybe this was a claim before the adjudicators, but he couldn't afford a partial victory, especially if the Earthers were planning something underhanded. Thank you, Admiral Thorndora Skirale Tufme F. Alan. I will set on creating a strategy immediately. He growled at the file before him. The problem with approaching an adjudicator problem with a hunter's perspective was that every suggestion his betas had offered amounted to storming the chamber and forcing the Earthers to admit to their wrongdoing. The methods varies depending on which specialty the beta had, but the end result was the same. Covered Up suggested infiltrating their ship's computers and extracting the information. Investigation wanted to put in claims for all transmissions, and someone had to have said something that would clue them in on the plans. Thought that going with the finances would be the best way. His frontline beta suggestion were straightforward. March in, take control of the situation, and not leave until they had the result they wanted. They'd spent the rest of his shift and a half of the next going over options, and nothing of use had come of it. He'd sent them home and had come home himself, planning on a shower to relax just before Jeremy arrived and started on food, but instead he'd sat in his office and had gone over everything again, looking for something, anything. He did not look forward to telling him about this. Gral, his heart called. Here, he replied, rubbing a temple. Please stand by me. Otimar Ruxterik, and whispered the words that would let me break this to him gently. I am done, Jeremy snarled, stepping into his office. You are going to tell that friend of yours to fucking stop it. He rubbed his temple harder. What are you talking about? That Tomerimo Toral has just spent an entire shift following me around, glaring and running off the moment I look at him. Then try harder. What? Jer, just try harder, okay? No, you are going to tell him to stop. No, I'm not, he snapped. You're the one who has a problem with him. He's the one who has a fucking problem with me for some fucking unknown reason. It's not unknown. He couldn't keep the derision from his tone, and Jeremy narrowed his eyes. Why is he stalking me? Talk with him, Jeremy snorted. How about you tell him to come talk with me instead? I don't have the fucking time, Jer. How about you fucking make it, Gral? And what? Let the Earthers just plan how they're going to take you from me without doing anything? Jimmy's expression turned flat. What? He fought the urge to curse the god of wisdom. It wasn't like he'd have heard any of his whispers through their screaming. They're trying again. They're claiming you have some sickness and that it affected your mind, and because of that, you weren't sane when you said you wanted to be with me. I can't. He had his heart in his arm before the panic set in too deeply. I won't let them, Jer. They will never take you from me again. Believe me when I tell you this. No god, theirs or mine, or anyone else's, will be able to keep me from protecting you. He pulled away and watched his heart's eyes. Watched the panic recede until he felt he'd be able to hear the rest of what he had to say. But that's what I have to focus on, Jer. So You need to handle Tom. Talk with him. He keeps running. He isn't courageous the way you are. You're going to have to corner him. You're going to have to force it on him. Why can't you just tell him to sit down and tell me what I've done to cause this? Because if I force him, it's not going to be resolving anything. I can't be involved in that. Because you're already involved in him creating the problem, aren't you? Jeremy closed his eyes. Did I steal you from him? No, Jeremy, you didn't. I'm not his to be stolen from. Jeremy hugged him tightly. I'll do my best to find a way to talk with him. I'm glad this didn't get too bad between us. He held his heart gently. You might not be done screaming. Your father is among those coming to enforce their claims. Jeremy didn't scream. He laughed. It was a bitter and angry sound. And that concludes Chapter 6 of The Technician's Fight. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is up on Ream Story. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good way.